This week I've been driving something a little bit different compared to what I normally would pick for my manager demo. This week I've been driving a 2019 BMW M4 CS. The M4 CS is one of the special editions of the M4 that BMW came out with shortly after the release of the newest F-Series M4. The M4 in itself is a spin-off from the BMW M3. Just like the M3, the M4 was designed to be a daily driving sports car that you could comfortably take to the track, put in some hot laps, and cut it pretty close to some of the full-on performance cars out there. The M4 was designed to balance comfort and performance, delivering a luxurious, stylish two-door vehicle while giving you all of the performance and capability that you would expect from a proper track day car. The M4 CS sits between the M4 competition and the M4 GTS. As you go higher and higher from the M4, it gets a little bit more and more track oriented. Compared to the M4 and the M4 competition, the M4 CS gets a little bit more power and a little bit lighter weight. So with the M4 CS, styling wise, you get a couple extra tweaks. You get some carbon fiber body panels. You get a slightly different front hood compared to the standard M4. Cooler seats on the inside and a couple CS badges all around the car. I have driven M3s and M4s in the past. I've always really liked the idea of a car that you can daily drive while still breaking necks on the road. It's a car that car enthusiasts know if you have taste, if you want to show that you are still a performance-oriented person while still having the practicality for daily driving, for running errands, that you have a vehicle that is capable of all of those things. It's a jack of all trades. When I chose to take the M4 CS as a manager demo this week, I did it with a couple questions in mind. How different is the M4 CS compared to the standard M4? And can I daily drive an M4 CS? Now, I wasn't too familiar with the M4 CS going into this. When I opened the driver's door, the first thing that shot out to me was, hey, this car does not have any armrests. And so that catapulted my question into how practical is this car? How comfortable is this car? And can you really daily drive it? As I mentioned, the M4 CS has a different door card compared to the standard M4. This is a door card made of carbon fiber. This is a door card with no armrests or even a door handle. Fully carbon fiber, which looks super cool. In place of the standard armrest on the M4, you get this padded cushion where your armrest should be that is slightly angled downwards. Again, this is all in the name of weight savings, and it contributes to that 35 pounds of weight savings that the car gets. Aside from not having an armrest, the M4 CS also doesn't have any door handles. In place of your standard door handle on the inside of the car, the M4 CS gives you a pole tether. So it's a pretty cool pole tether, I'll give it that. It's got the BMW M colors on it. It feels very sturdy and durable. Coming from the factory, I quite like that idea. I quite like the concept of having a pole tether in the name of weight savings. The M4 CS also has slightly more lightweight seats. So I noticed the seats, they have like a cutout inside. So it's got two holes in it essentially. Back to armrests. The M4 CS does not have a center armrest. When you're driving this car, you know, a lot of times you look for the armrest and you can put your elbows on. On the M4 CS, that little cushion on the door card doesn't really support your elbows. And when you're looking for an armrest in the middle, you're only going to reach the actual center console that's slightly wrapped and swayed. So the M4 CS has the same 3-liter turbocharged engine that the standard M4 has, which gives you 453 horsepower, a whopping 9 horsepower more than the standard M4. And that is mated to a 8-speed MDCT dual clutch transmission. So that power and that transmission is enough to give you 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.5 seconds, which is a dizzying amount of acceleration. especially for a car that is, supposed to be as practical as the M4. The M4 also has adaptive suspension, which this week has been very useful. I've been able to take the car not only for a quick spirited drive, but also driving to and from work, going to the grocery store and all that kind of stuff. A couple things that I really like about the M4 CS particularly. The M4 CS has a little bit more of an aggressive exhaust sound compared to the standard M4. Maybe it doesn't have a different exhaust system, but maybe in the name of weight savings, there was a little bit less padding, there's a little less sound dampening, which makes that exhaust sound a little bit more evident. So the exhaust sounds amazing, especially on a cold start, especially as you're just going past that 3,000 RPM range. Another thing that I really like about the M4, I think the styling, the wheels, especially that hood, does set it apart from the standard M4. So I do appreciate the subtle cues that tell you that this is a slightly different car than your run-of-the-mill M4. I mentioned earlier that the M4 CS doesn't have a traditional door handle, and instead it has that pull tether. Most people would kind of get annoyed at the fact that you have to pull on essentially a piece of string in order to close the door on a $120,000 car, but I'm all about purpose, I'm all about intent, and I think that because the car came from the factory with that pull strap, I really like that idea. I like the idea of something that is meant to be track focused, track oriented. The purpose of the pull tether was to reduce weight on an actual track car. And I love the idea that this came from the factory like that. It harkens to like the Porsche 911 GT3 RS with the pull strap instead of their standard door handle, all in the name of weight savings. I do really like that idea. I do think that it's very cool. If you're not putting it on as an aftermarket option, if it's coming from the factory, that's my excuse. Like, hey, it came from the factory like that, but I still think it's super cool. Another thing that kind of surprised me, and I kind of like on the M4, is the sound system. I was expecting, because it is a track-focused car, they're going to take away a bunch of speakers. They're going to go with, just your basic BMW Symphony system, which they did. However, inside the M4, the sound system actually sounds not bad. It sounds what I would kind of expect from, like a BMW 3 Series, BMW 4 Series. It wasn't bad at all. Maybe doesn't have as much soundproofing compared to on a regular BMW. It still had really good sound quality inside the cabin, even without all of the soundproofing and everything like that to isolate that sound system. Something that surprised me, it's not necessarily something that I like, is the suspension. On the M4 CS, you can actually customize the suspension setting. Like on some regular M4s, you can go between Sport Plus, Sport, and Comfort. When I took the M4 CS, I was fully prepared to have my spine shattered from how aggressive the suspension is going to be, but I was actually pleasantly surprised in most conditions. Even if the road was a little bumpier, even if I was going over a speed bump or going over construction or something like that, I was actually quite surprised how soft and how forgiving the suspension actually felt. That being said, when I go into the full Sport Plus setting, when I push the M buttons on the steering wheel, it definitely does firm up, and it definitely shakes you a little bit more compared to on the standard mode. So I was quite impressed at the adaptability of that suspension. On to a couple things that I'm not a huge fan of on the M4 CS. Number one would be the transmission. As much as I do appreciate that there's 3 levels that you can cycle through, similarly Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, even when I was in the lowest settings, there were times which I felt the clutch caught on kind of aggressively. As you go higher in that setting, it definitely does get less comfortable. And I think it is understandable how that transmission is tuned, given it is a more sports oriented car. But I definitely think that if I was daily driving the car, that would probably be my biggest annoyance. That would probably be the thing that makes me want to go back to something a little bit softer. I'm sure it's great for high RPM, quick shift situations, but I do think that there is a balance that I need if I'm going to be choosing a daily driver. So having kind of gone into this M4 CS experience, knowing that the car might be a little bit stiff, that's on me. You know, it's not the car's fault that it is what it is. But at the same time, I think that that's probably the thing that's going to drive me the most crazy. Overall, I think the M4 CS has more or less lived up to the expectations that the M3 and the standard M4 set. It is a very cool car. You know, I've definitely noticed a lot of people turning their heads looking at the car, especially in the nice gray color that I have this one in. It definitely gives you that performance feeling. It accelerates very well. When the suspension is in the Sports Plus setting, you can feel the responsiveness, you can feel the tightness of the car. The steering feels amazing. Even going through the bumps, you can kind of feel everything on the road. Amazing feedback and super sharp when you're turning it. The transmission, you know, as you're going through every shift, it sounds amazing. I think that purists will say a dual clutch transmission isn't for car enthusiasts, but I think if you're looking for pure performance, if you're looking for maximum acceleration, then you have to go with a dual clutch transmission. On top of that, dual clutch transmissions sound amazing as you're popping through the gears, as you're using the flappy paddles on the steering wheel. I think that it sounds great. I think it feels amazing, almost like you're getting hit with a baseball bat to accelerate you into the next gear. So all of that performance lobbed together in a very practical packaging still. You know, there's lots of space in the cabin, very good visibility, never had any issues with that. The back seats as well are, you know, decently spacious, what you would kind of expect and what you would need for a performance car like this. And I took the car to buy groceries a couple times and it was very practical. The trunk had plenty of space in it. So no complaints from me on the level of practicality of the car. It definitely lives up to what I expected because it is still a BMW, it is still a 4 Series, and you know, you expect the car to do all of those things. I've always had a soft spot for BMWs. I started my career at a BMW dealership, and growing up, you know, my mom had a really cool BMW 3 Series, and I always thought that they looked really nice. The new BMWs have definitely had a departure from their traditional design, you know, the way that the kidney grills are styled, and you know, a lot of people have opinions about their interiors nowadays, but I think that the F Series, 3 Series, and 4 Series has kind of hit the pinnacle for me in terms of the design, in terms of the styling, in terms of how the cars feel. I know that a lot of purists also prefer the V8 from the E92 M3. I quite like the sound of the 6-cylinder engine, the straight 6. It gives almost like an E46 M3 kind of exhaust note. And you know, I've always been okay with the SMG transmissions when they first came out, and with the dual clutch transmissions, it serves its purpose. It might not be the most comfortable, but I think that the car still lives up to the M badge. It still gives you everything that you'd be looking for if you were trying to find a good daily driver that you can take to the track. This particular M4 CS we do have available at Go Richmond Subaru, and we're selling it for just over $76,000 plus taxes. I think it's amazing value for what you're getting. It will beat most cars on the track without any modifications. It will give you that kind of sports car experience that you're looking for if you choose to buy an M4. The color that we have is amazing. And again, it is available at Go Richmond Subaru. So if you are interested in the car, feel free to stop by, talk to one of my amazing product specialists. Again, my name is Daniel. I'm the EV manager at Go Richmond Subaru, and this is my manager demo.